Now, coming up next, we have a fantastic speaker. We have David Guest coming up to the stage. I'll bring you up, David. Now, David is the CEO and founder of Outcomes Business Group. He's worked with thousands of business owners around the world, focused on growth, scale, and reinvigorating the business dream. David is a compelling and engaging presenter, which I'm sure you'll know right now. Hello, David. Welcome to the stage.
Thanks, Colin. That was great. I don't usually get an intro like that, so thanks very much. First of all, I just suppose I'd like to get a bit of a sort of feedback loop. Those guys who run their own business in the room, can I just get you to stick your hand up if you run your own business? Okay. Those who work for someone else, there'd better be a few. What about those who run their own business but wish they worked for someone else? Any of those there? Oh, yeah, there's always one. All right, good on you, Rick. So yeah. Look, so today my presentation is pretty easy. I'm going to be talking about how to accelerate growth in 2021. Right, we've had some massive changes in the past 12 months, and the last two presenters, especially Jude, talked a lot about the technology that's come on board. Ashley talked about how you need to use that technology as part of your sales process. And I think there's some things that are going to stay, and there's some things that are going to bounce back. You know, there's two kinds of change in life. There's cyclic change, like the weather, which is, you know, summer, winter. You know, we go through those cycles, and then there's structural change. And I think what Zoom has done for us is structural. Most people aren't going back. And I feel sorry for my Australia Post guys. Anyone seen how hard the Australia Post guys are working these days? Yeah, they're never going to go back because everyone's now buying stuff online, which is awesome, right? So we're going to talk about how we can actually accelerate the growth in your business over the next 12 months. So yes, Colin touched on this. Our business has been around since 2001. So we're in our 20th year. Our anniversary is in about a month's time, which is exciting. So we've made it. When we talk about what we do, we help people who are in business grow, right? We reinvigorate the business stream, and the way we do it is by helping people understand the gaps in what they're doing and getting that mojo back that they had when they started out. And I was talking to Jason during the break. He's a startup, and I'm pretty sure he's excited about business opportunity right now. How many people remember when they started their business? Who's got a memory of that? That's when your energy is usually pretty high, right? You'll work till midnight. You'll get up at 3 a.m. in the morning just to get stuff going. And then after a while, you start to realize, you know, it's a bit harder than this, or things change, or COVID comes along or something. So reinvigorating that business stream is one of our key elements of how we work. So a little bit of distinction, right? Many of the businesses that we look at look like this. They're busy, right? Sometimes they confuse the word business with busyness, right? And they're running around like crazy doing operations. Their admin is small, and they usually do it after hours, or they usually sort of just try and squeeze it in the background. And their marketing, or the way they market their business, is either small or non-existent. And the reason they tell us they don't market their business, because they get all their work from word of mouth. Who's getting all their work from word of mouth? Yes, there's a few people on the call. It's awesome, right? You should get your work from word of mouth. But the reality of marketing is people are scared to market because of this, right? They are stuck in the middle of their business. And if we doubled the size of their business overnight, they would probably have a heart attack and die, right? They just can't work that hard. Now, there's a fundamental flaw in this model, right? And I'll show you the difference. A high-performing business needs to look like this. It needs operations, it needs admin, it needs sales and marketing, and they should be in equal proportion. But here's the big kicker. The owner themselves should not be working in the business any longer, right? Because this business is scalable. This business will grow, right? The other one will actually run out of time, and they will hit a red line. Right, so we're going to talk a bit about how do you get yourself from inside to outside of your business. There's 3 phases that we're going to talk about today. The first one is getting out of chaos. Now, who's in chaos in their business right now? Can I just get a show of hands for those people who are feeling chaotic in their business? There's only about 3 people that are willing to admit it. That's okay. I know that most people who run their own business are in chaos. They don't like to admit it. They call it busy, right? And when you ask them how's business, they go, we're flat out, we're busy, right? But when you really look behind the scenes, they're running around like crazy, trying to make ends meet, right? Trying to make ends meet, trying to pay the bills, right? To me, that's chaos, right? Chaos is when you wake up in the morning and you look at your inbox and there's 100 emails, there's 3 voicemails, you go to work. By the end of the day, there's 200 emails and 6 voicemails, and you didn't stop for 3 seconds. That's chaos, right? Now, I want to talk about that first, and then I'm going to talk about how to grow. Because if you're in chaos, do not grow. Right? Growing chaos is bad for your health, right? So we've got to get you out of chaos first. Then we're going to talk about how to grow. And then the final thing that we need to talk about is how do you get out? How do you leverage, right? Because leveraging is about getting people to do your work. Now, the problem with getting those people is you need cash to pay them, And the problem with getting the cash to pay them is if you're in chaos, you can't generate the extra income. So 3 phases we're going to talk about today, and we're going to go through each one. So the first one, the chaos to control, we've talked about it. You guys know about it. This looks like I have no end of work in front of me. It's infinite. I have emails coming in. I cannot keep up with the workload. I try and make ends meet, but I'm just shifting from one job to the other. And there's 3 things that we can do to get you out of chaos. The first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is weird, right? And I'm going to see if I can make my thing work. The first thing that I'm going to get you to do is to aspire. Now, what I mean by aspire is I want you to think about this question, and you probably want to write this one down. The question is, what will my business look like when it's finished? Weird question, right? What will my business look like when it's finished? Now, most people can't answer this question because when I ask them, they go, what do you mean finished? I've just started. And I go, yeah, I get you've just started, but what's it going to look like when it's finished? I don't plan on finishing my business anytime soon. Well, imagine you went to a builder and said, I want you to build me a house. And he goes, great, what's it look like when it's finished? You go, don't worry, just start, right? And you go, he looks at you like, you're crazy. I can't start without a plan of what it's going to look like in the end. I don't know, just start. How many floors you want? I don't know, right? It sounds ridiculous, but this is how most people build their business. Now, finished means one of probably 3 things. You either sell it, you run it under management, or you close the doors. That's finished, right? But you decide, right? You get to choose your own adventure in business. You need to know what's the end game look like. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking about 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the future. What's the end result? What's the end product? Now, you don't need to answer that question today, but I want you to start thinking about it, right? Because you can't start a journey without knowing where you're going, right? And now this is sometimes people call it goal setting. Some people call it creating vision. I call it spending time drawing a sketch of what your future business will look like in the perfect world. Don't tell me, I don't know, it depends on COVID. I want you to make the assumption everything goes exactly as planned. And we're sitting here at the end of your business and it's either sold, closed, or under management. How big is it? What does it look like? How many people are working there? What sort of clients you have? That's aspire, okay? Now, the second part of getting you out of chaos, because this is just goal setting 101. It's talking about the future and defining it, right? The second part is to actually go from aspire to having a plan. Now, aspire is a goal, right? Setting goals. Planning is about turning goals into action items. Now, the reason you need a plan in business is if you don't have a plan to follow, you will do whatever's in front of you, right? Who's guilty of this, what's called pressure prompted activity? I've got a client calling, I need to respond to that. Okay, I've got emails, I need to follow those. We work on all the activities, but the one thing we don't work on is the things that are important, but not urgent. So a plan is about making sure you know what you need to do next. Is anyone on this call in the building trade? Is anyone in the building trade on this call? Yeah, Jason will know this answer to this question. If a builder's building a house, how often do they look at the plan? At least once a day, right? If you're building your business, how often should you look at your plan? I would say at least once a week. Now, if you don't have a plan to look at, that makes that super difficult, right? So when we coach clients, we say, not only do you need a business plan, you need an 8-week plan. You need to have a plan for what you're doing this week to work on your business. Because if you don't plan for it, it don't happen, right? And unless you want to just stay on the treadmill, you need a plan that's going to get you off that treadmill. The third piece of this puzzle, chaos to control, is this one. Measure. Not only do you need to plan, you need to measure progress, right? You need to measure results, not just revenue, not just profit, but numbers of leads coming into your business, conversion rate, number of quotes, number of products delivered. Everything needs to be measured. Now, without measurement, we can't tell if things are going well. So when I ask someone how's business and they say flat out, it tells me nothing, right? Next question I normally ask is how profitable are you? Well, I don't know. The accountant looks after that for me. Well, that's like driving your car without looking at the speedo and then complaining when you get a speeding ticket, right? You need to know your numbers, right? And one of the things in business is we need these numbers reported, if not monthly, weekly, so that we know that things are moving. Now, these 3 things, right? Aspiring, having a vision, planning, having literally a to-do list of items off the goal sheet, and then measuring results will start to take chaos out of your life and move you back into control. Does this make sense? Thumbs up if you're with me. Yeah, awesome. So it's just simple, right? Now, sometimes this can take 3 months, sometimes it can take 3 years, but growing a business in chaos is bad. Some people have experienced this, right? The business grows because of COVID, right? And all of a sudden we're flat out, oh, my business is growing, aren't I awesome? The answer is no, you're not awesome. You're lucky, right? Now let's see if you can keep that growth. Let's see if you can keep that sustainable business going in the long term. Because if you can do that, brilliant. But if you don't have the systems in place to do it, chances are you're going to fall over. So we need to get that base, that foundation of that pyramid right, which is that whole idea of going from chaos to control. One of my favorite quotes of all time is Albert Einstein. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Has anyone had this experience? Next year is going to be different. Next year, I am going to work on my business. And next year, I am going to, who's done that? Few, right? Yeah, you know who you are. Right. And what happens? The same thing. That's insane, right? So let's start working out the reality is just committing and saying I'm going to do something does not guarantee it's going to happen. You must have a plan and you must have measurement and you must feel uncomfortable about the movement. Because if you're not uncomfortable about the movement, you're doing the same thing you were doing before. If you feel uncomfortable, that's usually good, right? That means you're actually in a new space. Let's move into growth, the second part of my pyramid. So who's excited about growth in their business? Can I just have a show of hands for those people? Awesome. Everyone loves growth. They go, don't worry about the chaos stuff, just give me more clients. And I'll suggest without sorting out the chaos, I can give you more clients and you'll do one of two things. You'll either get them on board and do a terrible job, or you will lose some of your older clients because you're now too busy, okay? So when we talk about growth in the business, there's going to be 3 aspects that I want to talk about with growth. The 2 of them have been covered today already. The first one was that we must generate leads. So we need to attract. Now I call it attract because me generating leads is you get the kinds of leads that you are fishing for, right? So your marketing system needs to attract high caliber leads. We had Jude talk about this and we had Ashley talk about this when Rena asked about how do I get past the gatekeeper. You need to attract the right kind of people, right? You need to know who your target market is and you need to make sure all of your marketing and all your messages are not only targeting that person, but dealing with their problems, right? Dealing with their problems. And if we can do that with our marketing, we get really good leads. The second part of this formula is this one. We need to convert. Now, I'm not going to talk about conversion. Ashley did a great job, right? Conversion is about taking someone who fits in your target market that you can open a conversation with and getting them to move from being in your target market to being interested in your product to giving you money for your service. It's a process, right? It needs to be defined, it needs to be refined, and it needs to have things in it like objection handling, it needs to have things in it like how to get past the gatekeeper. All the things that we talked about today is part of conversion. Now, you can attract and convert, but if you don't do number 3, this is where it all comes undone. You need to deliver. Now, when I say deliver, everyone tells me their product is great, their service is great, but they also tell me how busy they are. If I said to you, invest in a marketing system that's going to double the number of clients you get tomorrow, and if you're starting to shake in your boots right now as a result of that, because you don't know how you're going to deliver, don't spend the money on the marketing, right? Because the issue is marketing and sales will cost money and they are a flywheel. They need momentum. And to get efficient at your marketing, you need to keep it going all the time. To keep your marketing going all the time requires you to have a delivery mechanism that will scale and keep quality up. So the 3 things you need to grow is you need to market, you need to sell, but you need to make sure you've got the capacity to deliver to these new people without dropping quality. Okay, so 3 things you need to think about there. And if you can get these things under control, you will grow your business. Who's with me so far? Thumbs up if you're still with me. Awesome. Let's talk about the last one. But before I do, one of my second favorite quotes in the world, Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn was a brilliant business philosopher. Anyone who remembers this guy, right? Unfortunately, he died about 15 years ago, but he is quirky. And if you ever listen to him, he's got this voice that just resonates in my brain. But this I read when I was 21 years old. And what it told me is never wish life were easier. Just wish that you were better. And what it taught me is that the market is the market. You cannot control what happens outside of your own mind. All you can control is you. So if you start thinking about how do I improve myself, then my business will improve as a result of it. Does that make sense? If I improve myself, my business will improve as a result of that. And that's one thing I can control. And one thing COVID did for me is allowed me to read more books, right? Because I love reading books and I learn more and I train more and I do more things. And it got us to try new activities. I know a lot of people talked about going online as a result of COVID. We pivoted. Well, awesome, right? You moved into a new market that expands. Now you need to grow to suit that market. Let's talk about this last one, leverage. This is one of my favorite topics. If you do a good job in the first two, so the first one is get out of chaos. Make sure you're measuring your numbers. Make sure you know where you're going and think big, right? And start executing on that plan and putting things in place that will grow your business. Then you invest your money in your marketing, you get your sales system right, and you start delivering a brilliant product. Inevitably, if you do those two layers right, you're going to get busier and you are going to run out of capacity, no matter what, right? Now, leverage is an interesting topic because to me, leverage is about how do I do more with less? How do I do more with less? Right? We're going to talk about the three things that you need to do. And this is probably one of the best kept secrets of being successful in business. Now, some of you have heard this before. Some of you are actually doing this, but most of us don't do this well, right? The best kept secret of being successful in scaling a business is finding and keeping good people. One of my favorite books that I read over Christmas, chuck this on your reading list, is called Who, Not How. It was written by a guy by the name of Dan Sullivan. It's called Who, Not How. I'll get Colin to type that into the chat box. Who, Not How, Dan Sullivan. And it's a brilliant book. He says, stop trying to fix the problems and start trying to find the people who can fix the problems. Because fixing the problems yourself cements you into the corner of being the guy who fixed it. Finding the people who can fix the problems means you can scale. So let's talk about how you find people. There's three things we need to do to find people. The first one is that you need to be very good at defining. You need to define exactly what each job is in your business. You need to create roles that are very clear. You need position contracts. You need to be very clear about what people need to do and how do I know if they're doing their job properly before you employ. Now, if you've already employed, it doesn't matter, right? But my suggestion is if we were coaching you, we'd say, before you employ your next person, I need to see a job specification. I need to know how you measure their performance, and I need to know what does a good job look like in writing. Because if I have that defined, then I can go to market and I can actually do an effective job of recruiting. Okay. Now, here's the thing, unless you're a recruitment agency, your capacity to recruit is pretty low, right? Most people are professional. They're good at what they do, right? I'm a good plumber, I'm a good architect, I'm a good engineer, and I run a business because I'm good. Well, they're the wrong credentials for running a business, right? Being a good architect means you should be doing drawings, right? Not just running a business. Now, learning how to recruit is a key element of being successful. And I'd suggest to you that if you're at a point where you're so busy that you can't touch, your feet don't touch the ground, you need to start thinking about who, not how, right? Who, not how. And then you need to go and identify the roles, and then you need to find out how to find those people, right? Go find the people that will suit those roles in a recruitment system. Now, learning how to recruit doesn't mean you have to become a HR person. Learning how to recruit means you allocate time, you read some books, you develop skills that are not related to your business. They're related to finding people, right? Because if you find the right people, then you'll do this one. It's not that exciting, but you need to train those people, okay? Not just find good people and throw them in the deep end, find good people and train them, right? And there's big fear around training, right? People say, well, what happens if I train them and they leave? Well, the real question is, what happens if you don't train them and they stay, right? Think about it, right? Here's the key skill. You want to leverage your business, find and keep good people, train them, get them to be productive, and just keep doing it, because your business will grow to your capacity to manage, right? And unless you know how to do that, you're going to end up doing everything yourself. And I know there's some people out there that run their own business and they're control freaks. Who's a control freak on this call? Can I just, interesting. Who's a control freak? Oh, there's only 4 that are willing to admit it. There's some smiles though. Right. So here's the control freaks mantra. If you want a job done properly, you've got to, fill in the gap, not do it yourself. You've got to find the right people and train them, right? And here's another one. It's easier to do it myself. Who's guilty of it's easier to do it myself? Show of heads. Yeah, because it's quicker, right? I can do it myself. Why would I pay someone to do it if I can do it myself? Because it's costing you the most valuable asset you have on the planet, which is your own time. You need to change your mindset around how to grow a business. Start working on it, not in it, right? Because working in it does not end well. I have a friend right now who's been working in his own business for 40 years. He's 65 years old, and he now has decided he needs to retire soon. He's gone to get a valuation of his business, right? He fixes lawnmowers. And the valuation came in at 140,000, including stock. And he's looking at it going, I've worked 40 years for this. And the reality is he worked 40 years in a job. He didn't work 40 years for this, right? That's the end result of not planning to exit a business, not planning what it's going to look like when it's finished. My suggestion is that's your choice. You get to choose your own adventure when it comes to running your own business. And if you don't define what you're looking for, what you want the end to look like, it will just go its own way. Almost guaranteed, because the fact of the matter is 80% of businesses in Australia will close down. That's how they exit. They just close the doors. They can't sell it. They sell the stock. They might sell the book, but there's no intrinsic value in the goodwill. That's a decision, right? It's not just by accident, it's a decision, and no decision means that's where you're going to end up. All right, I've been talking for a long time. I'm going to stop. Another one of my favorite quotes, I love this one. This is Bruce Lee, right? Bruce Lee said, knowing is not enough. We must apply. Because I hear people who say, David, everything you've told me today, I've heard before. My response to that is brilliant. Show me your bank account. Because if your bank account does not reflect your knowledge, then what's happening is you're just a knowledge sponge. You're not an executor. You're not actually moving forward with the stuff you're learning. You need to do things, right? And if you do them, you'll make mistakes. Just like everyone else I've met in business, you make mistakes. The trick is not to avoid making mistakes. The trick is to make them quick and move on and grow as a person. So I want to summarize what we've talked about today. Really, 3 steps. Simple. Get out of chaos. Stop letting the tail wag the dog, right? You're going to do that by doing 3 things. Deciding what my business is going to look like when it's finished, my big goal, putting a plan in place that tells me what I need to work on next, and measuring what I do to see if it worked, right? The numbers do not lie, right? The second part is once we do this, this just gives us control. It doesn't make us more money. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. The second part is the growth quotient, right? This is where you're going to spend a lot of money on marketing, on sales, and you're going to start building your delivery mechanism. This is what sometimes we call the engine room of the business, right? But trying to build this when you're chaotic and you're running from client to client, trying to fix things is going to stress you out big time, right? And this is where most people stop. They go, oh, just do it myself. It's so much easier if I do it myself. It's not easier if you do it yourself. It's harder, right? Because you can't leverage. And also the day that you stop working is the day you stop getting paid. So just think of one thing. When you go into business for yourself, the one thing most people don't realize is the level of risk involved. And for the risk that you take running your own business, you need to get paid in accordance. I'll give you a rule of thumb. If you're employable and if you can go get a job tomorrow, you need to take that number, whatever that number is. It might be $100,000, and your business should generate 3 times that in terms of your take-home profit. So if you're worth 100,000 in a job, your business should be generating a minimum of 300,000 for you every year. And if it isn't, and I'm not talking revenue, I'm talking profit take home for you. Because if it isn't, you're not covering yourself for the risk that you're taking. You're not covering yourself for the risk that you're taking. So if your business plan does not accommodate that as a minimum, you might be better off closing the doors and working for someone else. Because working for someone else, you get holiday pay, sick pay, superannuation, and all the benefits. But when you work in your own business, you strip all that away. And unless you decide to go for it, you don't get it. It's making sense so far for everyone? Thumbs up if you're with me. Let's just finish this one off quickly. The last part is the leverage part. This is the exciting part. This is where we see big changes in business and big dollars. And this is when you start bringing those people on board that you need, right? The who, not how. Right? Define, recruit, and train. Get those people on the bus, get them doing their job properly, and you will have a successful business. Okay, how are we going for time, Colin? I've lost track.
Good, we're right on time.
Oh,
So
amazing.
a couple of minutes if you need to wrap up.
I do. I've got about one more thing to say. I want to talk a bit about us. Is that okay? I don't like to do any pitching, but I'm not going to. This is how it's going to work. We as a business coaching organization, have been around for a long time. Some of you guys know about us. Some of you guys have worked with us. Some of you have never heard of us before. Business coaching is a funny world, right? Because it's unregulated, which means there's heaps of them out there, heaps. And some are good and some are not so good, and you'll never know until you throw your money on the table. I hate that, right? Because I'm not a risk taker. I like to manage my risk. So we were trying to work out how to do this. And for me, risk reversal is a big part of offering a service. And the thing we came up with was this. We've created a program that runs over 8 weeks. And over 8 weeks, our commitment is that we're going to produce you $8,000 in profit. 8 weeks, $8,000. Now, everyone's going to say, that's not enough, that's too much, that's not possible, I've just started up. I can't answer that question for each individual right now, right? I don't know, right? What I know is that if you fit the model in terms of where you are in your business right now and who you are as a person, our system will give you the 9 things we talked about today, right? It's all there. Over 8 weeks, our job is to prove ourselves. And if we can't give you the 8,000 in the 8 weeks, you will get a full refund on the program. That's our commitment to the program. But the problem is, I don't know if it's for you, right? Because I have to have that conversation. So what I'd like to do, anyone who's interested, you can do one of 2 things. Colin is going to do a magic trick and put a link to my calendar into the chat box. If you want to book a time to have a chat about our program or your business, or just have a coffee, and just virtual coffee these days, book a time in my diary for 30 minutes, right? During that time, I'll talk to you. We'll work out whether this is something that's going to work for you. And I'll tell you if it won't. Because for me, the thing in our business, the reason we're called Outcomes is because we're all about getting results, right? And when we created this program, we said, if you can't get your result, we're either not going to work with you or we're going to refund you. But I'll tell you in the first conversation, because it's not for everybody, right? If you're not feeling like you want to grow your business, if you're too busy, or some of the people are in startup mode, if you're just in startup mode, do what you have to do, right? But the minute you're feeling that you're drowning or you're stuck or you don't know what to do next, that's when you need to get some help. I'm happy to have that conversation. We don't hold back anything when we start a conversation. I'll tell you exactly what you need to do in your business. So anyone who's interested, just click on that link and book a time. My diary is a bit hard to get into, but just find a time there. If none of the times in there suit you, just either contact Colin or put in the chat box results. If you want results in your business, put the word results into that chat box. If you don't want them, don't put it in there. If you book the link, you don't need to. We got a couple.